How's it going, everybody? This is the second episode of the JoeyH podcast. Today we got a special guest, Jordan Budwig, aka Coach Bud, CEO of Five Star Studs. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Joey. Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you here, man. It's been a while. So I'm just gonna get right into it. What got you into football?
What got me into football? It was actually interesting. So I've lived my entire childhood as a baseball player until I went to university school as an eighth grader. I came in with some elite baseball guys: Mike White, Zach Collins, Danny Zardone, all guys that played professionally. Mike White, the quarterback for the Dolphins. Zach Collins being the 10th overall pick for the White Sox in the MLB draft. So some elite talent going into U school with the mindset being baseball. Some things happened in my life that included a growth spurt of 4 inches and about 80 pounds from my freshman year to my sophomore year. So I went from being 5'10", about 185 pounds, to being 6'3", 285 pounds. That kind of set the trajectory where I needed to go, right? So I still played baseball. I started love for it. But then my junior year, I tore my labrum during football season. So kind of put an end to my baseball career in terms of progressing in that, and made football the focus, and been living that life ever since.
All right. What was it like playing for Coach Harriet at university school?
Playing for Coach Harriet was awesome. So I came in when I got to high school. U school was a developing program. We were 5-5 my freshman year. A lot of talent on that roster, but not the culture and the leadership that we had needed. That Coach Harriet was growing there. The thing that Coach Harriet did incredibly well when I was a player was allow the team to be player led and really incentivize it to be player led. He challenged us to take on the identity of the team, to become the identity of the team, and to lead our team where they needed to go. Learned a lot of valuable lessons from him, playing and coaching for him. But playing for him was not easy. They demanded a lot. I mean, the coaching staff we had at U School was elite. I mean, you're talking about Coach Harriet. You're talking about Ryan Snyder, who's the head coach at Cocoa now. You're talking about Kevin Beard, who's the receivers coach at Miami. All on the offensive side of the ball. I didn't know it back then, but we were looking at more of a college coaching staff than a high school coaching staff, and they demanded a lot. That ended up paying off our senior year, winning the state title, and I wouldn't change a thing. And it taught me a lot about what I needed to do to be a great player at the college level. And Coach Harriet has a very unique way of approaching football, and he does it through building a culture in the players that allows them to maximize their potential. I definitely think I did that in high school.
Yeah. One thing I've learned from being around Coach Harriet is that he truly, gives his all into his job. And after U School, he was the running backs coach at FAU, and then for one season, and then he ended up going to where he is now at St. Thomas, and we'll get to that in a second. What made you choose FIU?
Despite me being a 2-time All-State player and an All-Conference guy, for whatever reason, I was actually not recruited very much. So I didn't actually have a Division I scholarship offer until after the state championship my senior year. The final schools that came down to were FIU and Western Kentucky. After taking my visit to FIU and getting the Miami experience and seeing potential for me to continue my career close to home, combined with the dynamics I had going on in my household, wanting to stay around my family, stay around my little brothers, and it was the right decision for me to stay home and to not go elsewhere. But it was 2 Conference USA teams, WKU and FIU, and that's why I made my decision.
Okay, okay. What was it like at FIU at first?
At first, it was a shell shock. Um, I thought I had worked hard. I thought I had done a lot, but you come to realize that there's a different level at Division One football. You meet your college strength coach, who you learn is going to demand more from you than probably anyone has in your entire life, from physically, mentally, truly learning how to push your body to its limits and figuring out what those limits are and continuing to push those limits further and further away. And I always considered myself a mentally tough kid. But going into that process, I had a lot of things going on in my life. My parents had gotten divorced um, late in my high school career, and there were some things, real life stuff, right? So when things get really difficult, sometimes those real life things tend to poke their head up. And my freshman year camp was about the hardest I've still ever seen from a coach to a player perspective. And while you're in those situations, it's hard for you to really understand. But looking back on it after being able to talk to my coaches and now coaching myself, right, in order for a coach to really truly trust a young player to go out there and start as a freshman, you have to make sure they've been through the ringer. You got to make sure that when the bright lights come on and things get difficult, that they're not going to flinch. So my coaches made sure of that, and that looked like 28 straight plays of inside run, and between every individual period, I was doing up downs when I messed up the smallest amount of footwork. And um, a lot of high school kids don't really understand what it's like to have everything you do be on camera and everything you do on a daily basis, even at practice, be filmed and evaluated by three different coaches from multiple angles. And it's a pressure that a lot of kids can't handle. It's definitely a pressure that was tough to deal with, but ended up overcoming it, starting all 12 games as a true freshman. But it was not on a good team. We were 1-11. The one game we won was on a blocked field goal. So by no means was that what I was used to. Right? I lost more games my freshman year than I did my entire high school career. So that definitely, took some getting used to.
Yeah.
Don't want to get used to losing for too long. Um, so that was under Ron Turner as he was the head coach. After my sophomore year, Coach Turner was relieved of his duties. We brought in Coach Davis, and Coach Davis really changed the culture and did more of what I mentioned Coach Harriet does really well, is empower his players to control the energy of the team and really have it be player led, which I'm a big believer in.
All right, all right. Unfortunately, you got injured and you had to sit out for 2 straight seasons. How did you overcome that?
So yeah, what most people don't know, Joey, is I missed those 2 seasons. On top of that was combined with my father passing away suddenly. So there was some childhood trauma packed on top of that at the same time. So I lost my hero, my best friend, and my father, and I lost the ability to play sports, which since I've been 3 years old, I've always had that outlet, right? And you go through probably the worst tragedy in my life, not probably, definitely the worst tragedy in my life, and you lose your outlet to deal with emotions at the same time. It was very difficult, man. There were some dark days. Um, I did a lot of stupid things, letting my emotions dictate my actions, and kind of feeling lost. Right? I think when you're going through a lot of things, you don't have that outlet. You lose connection with the team when you're injured. You kind of move away from players and coaches, and you're just kind of on a different schedule than everybody else. And that was really difficult, man. That challenge kind of came to a head when Coach Davis got there. I ended up failing a drug test when I was making my comeback in that summer. And that would be really bad for a lot of people, but for me, it was what I needed. God has a funny way of giving you what you need, even if you like it or not. So with that failed drug test, I was forced to go to counseling. I was forced to talk to a therapist one-on-one for the first time. And I was lucky enough to have, the director of psychology at FIUB that person I talked to. And she really helped me understand a lot about what I was going through mentally, a lot about my struggles, a lot about genetics and how they play a factor in things that my father dealt with and his alcoholism, things that were poking their head up in my life, and how, genetics play a role in that, and how you have to be diligent if you want to break generational curses. You have to be diligent in fighting against those things that have, overwhelmed and overcame my ancestors. So that to me was a life-changing moment, life-changing process. That could have honestly gotten me kicked out of school at that point, right? I hadn't played in 2 years. Coach Davis didn't really know me. We had spring football, where I started back with the threes, right? Coming back from 2 years of injury and a new coach. I didn't really have a real footing on the team. I had earned my way into playing with the ones by the end of spring football. But my father's anniversary of him passing away is April 28th. So when we came back that early May, they hit us with a test right away. And during his anniversary, me and my brothers tended to do some things that I knew weren't best, but kind of just trying to survive, not really thinking about what was best at that moment. But what I learned from that, most importantly, Joey, is that honesty and transparency is the most important thing. That's something, I learned from when I was little. A lot of people run from the truth or hide the truth when they feel, people don't care. And I went to Coach Davis and I told him the truth. I told him that, on the anniversary of my dad passing away, I'd smoked and I knew what the results of the drug test were going to be. And he appreciated that honesty and transparency, and had me go take it, but said we would figure out what we were going to do. Moving out of that, Coach Mogridge was my offensive line coach at college under Coach Davis, and he was incredibly helpful. A man that understood what I was going through, made me feel heard and listened to. Um, but old school, right? And he just kind of told me, "Look, man, you've done a few things here to create a perception of you that is not the one you want." And one thing I learned from Coach Harriet was that perception is reality. And if you want to change that perception, you got to change your actions. And I started changing my actions to just keep my head down and get to work and grind and try to get back to that player that I had been for my first 2 years. And that's exactly what I did, right? And I was extremely frustrated because we were opening the season against UCF at UCF on a Friday night, big time game that I definitely wanted to be a part of. And I was supposed to be suspended for that game. Following that plan and having faith and trusting God's plan, I did what they asked me to do. I put my head down and I got to work. And, for a game I was supposed to be suspended from, Coach Davis on Tuesday at practice announced me as a team captain for that game, based on the work that I had put in that off season. So, there was a lot of hard work that went behind it, a lot of humbling myself to prove, who I really was and not who I had been, while things were going wrong in my life. And, it worked out for the best, man.
Yeah, rest in peace to your father. I absolutely did not know that. And, one thing I've also, like you said, you can run from the truth all you want, but like I've learned, the hard way in life, your actions will catch up with you. You can only live in a facade for so long, and I've had to learn that.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of people have had to learn that. So, just, live up to, what you were sent here to do. That's what I've learned. And, you can only live in a facade for so long. But yeah, again, condolences to you and your father. I can't even imagine how that felt. And then you finished your career. You have the record at FIU with the most career starts with 50. And how does that make you feel?
Yes, sir. Legacy is something that Coach Harriet taught me to appreciate and to value. And I think that that's just a result of daily work, daily grind, a mindset to never want to not be there for my teammates. Unfortunately, me missing 2 years in a row forced me to miss a lot of time. But when I didn't have any shoulder problems, I never missed a practice, never missed a game. And I always wanted to be there for my team. I took it personally. Our job on the football team is to protect people, to be the bodyguards and to protect the man with the ball. And most of the time, that's our quarterback. I've always, since I started playing football, I've always made it a point, and it just happened naturally to be friends with my quarterbacks and to understand how they operate and to have their back on and off the field. It's something I take very personally, and my players know I take it personally as a coach now. That is our role. We don't get to touch the ball. We don't get to score fancy touchdowns, but nothing on that field that happens can operate without us protecting people. And it's something I take very seriously, man. Something I took very seriously as a player. So, when I hear those things, that's a blessing. That's a result of God. That's a result of the training staff and KO and Stacy and all those people that helped me in the training room. Even when I was getting on their last nerve, going through my struggles. It's a testament to guys like Jed, who was our DFO, and whenever I had an issue at school, he helped me handle it. It's a testament to my positional coaches, Coach Mogridge and Coach Shankweiler in the offensive line room, keeping me focused, always keeping me challenged. And it's a testament to Coach Davis, ultimately, to putting all those people I mentioned around me and building a real staff that ultimately cares about the kids, man. And that's the only reason you should be out there, in my opinion, as a coach, is to change kids' lives and to put them in positions to shine, and challenge them to be their best always. That's not an easy process, but Coach Davis is a legend for a reason. And he taught me a lot about the game, a lot about being a man. I probably close to nobody knows this, but I tried to quit before my senior year. I had my fifth year guys. I was 22, with 18-year-olds coming in. For me, I had came back, right? I had proved the doubters wrong. I had come back after 2 years of football, been an all-conference player, been a team captain, and I don't know, you kind of get that sense of satisfaction when you come back from such a long journey at the bottom. But Coach Davis didn't let me. He refused. I'm so thankful for that. But I wouldn't have that record without him. So I don't want to get emotional on you, Joey, but no, man, I had a lot of men around me that made sure I didn't waste my God-given ability, and I'm incredibly thankful for them.
Okay. Is Coach Davis, is he still coaching, or is he retired?
No, he's done now. I'm actually going to go see him today. St. Thomas University's homecoming. His son Drew Davis was started as a GA on our staff, and then he became the tight ends coach. I became very close with him, so I'm going to see him down there at the game. Coach Davis is helping with the staff, but he's more in a football operations role. Less coaching right now, more oversight and mentorship.
All right. Now, when you look back on your career at FIU, as you spent 6 seasons there, and obviously now in 2023, that's more common nowadays because you had COVID year and red shirt. That's more common. But you spent 6 seasons there. What do you cherish the most? Like, what moments do you cherish the most? And I'm pretty sure you've already answered that, but is there any specific moments where like you just cherish and you live with every day?
No, great question. So really what led me to being who I am today and led me to becoming a coach started my fifth and sixth year. Coming back from injury, playing as much football as I did, we had a very young offensive line room, and we had gotten a transfer in from Georgia to play left tackle for us. And he didn't know our playbook. He didn't understand what we did as an offense. And the coaches challenged me to make sure that the offensive line knew what they were doing. And I knew in order to be our best, we had to get Demery on the field. So I took that summer and started teaching him the plays and started teaching him things that I did and, how I was able to process information quickly and make sure I was doing the right job. And to be honest, the first year, a lot of that looked like me just telling them what to do. And we kind of had our own language on what we wanted on certain blocks and what I needed him to do for that play. But really taking more of a coaching role, even as a player. And that's really why I'm so grateful for Coach Davis and Coach Mo, because they don't know, a lot of coaches don't allow players to move into that role. And at that point in my career, I needed room to grow. And that growth came in taking responsibility for the offensive line room and what they know and what they understood and how the communication operated. And kind of, not that I was superior to the guys around me. I wouldn't be able to do what I did without them, but just taking responsibility for the energy and the communication of the unit, and putting that on my shoulders and make sure that we were the best we could be, whether that be having meetings, just player-led meetings on Thursdays to make sure we had our blitz pickup looks. But these are all things that the coaches incentivized us to do. So, very thankful they put me in a position to do that. But that led me more to, in my sixth year, after I graduated, I knew that staying in my dorm room all day or finding something else to do outside of the football field house was not going to be good for me. So I wanted to stay in the building as long as possible. And Coach Mo and Coach Davis actually allowed me to start sitting in on staff meetings, not the big ones, but like after practice when they're breaking down the film initially with just, a couple offensive coaches, even some defensive coaches allowed me to see, how they break down the film, how they look at the game. And I just started soaking all that in, man, and learning how high level football was really done. And again, that came with trust, right? Trust that I wouldn't go running back to my teammates if a coach happened to say something negative and, cause drama and all of that. I was given that responsibility, right? As an older guy. And that really put me in a headspace to be a coach on the field. And that's why I think, I was so valuable on the field and was named a team captain. Was I was able to take what the coaches wanted and put it in a verbiage that everybody could understand and get everybody on the same page. So, without that, my fifth and sixth year, I never had a plan to be a coach. That was never my thought process, my dream or my goal. I thought I would be in corporate America in business or starting my own business of some kind. I wanted to be in real estate development. I never really had the mindset to be a coach, but without those opportunities as a player, and then after I graduated from college, Coach Davis allowed me to be on the staff in a volunteer capacity. So I was a volunteer O-line coach, and able to really operate more like a graduate assistant, and be a coach on the field. And that's when me and Coach Drew Davis became so close, because I was helping a lot with the tight ends and their blocking and fitting in with the offensive line, and putting those same guys I had just played with, now in a position as a coach, to be the best we can be. And we end up beating Miami at Marlins Park, and that's something I'll never forget. Right, so all those moments build on each other, and just the opportunity to really get a peek behind the curtain, man, to see what high-end football really looks like is an opportunity that not a lot of people get, especially as a player and as a first-year coach. So just extremely thankful to those guys for the opportunity they gave me.
Okay, and at what point did you start coaching at St. Thomas?
So after I left FIU, I got a job in corporate America. I had met my now wife. We were trying to start, on our own after I went out to play arena ball for a little bit. Came back, and after those 50 career starts, it sounds great, but it's a lot on the body, especially at my position. And after 4 surgeries during my college career, after 2 years of missing ball, after chronic back and neck injuries, I decided it was time to walk away and time to trust my brain and do a regular life, right? Um, so that kind of got me into the coaching role. Now, being in corporate America, they don't really appreciate people being overly opinionated. And as a young guy, sometimes you think you have the world all figured out. So you start sharing these opinions to people that may not really think that's your role, you know. And that got me fired. I went through that first experience. Um, but at that time, I was coaching for youth school under Coach Luque. He gave me my first opportunity to coach in high school. That was the COVID year. So it started at True Prep, where they kind of just made a new team. Mark Cannon was our booster from Auto Nation, and kind of just created a new program to make sure these kids had an opportunity to play during COVID because MSU canceled fall sports. So went out there, had that opportunity to coach there. You're talking about Brandon Ennis, James Madison, Nick Vadiato. That team was loaded. Marcus Tate, an All-American left tackle. And that was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun to win a state championship with those guys. And I had a lot of opportunities as a young coach that not a lot of people do, where it was me and Coach CB really operating the pass game and the run game, and me kind of figuring out what I really liked in the run game as a coach and how to teach it and how to make it look the way it needed to look. And that was an incredible blessing. After that, youth school really wasn't the place for me at that moment. And I was actually playing high school football at all. I was going to invest in my business and dedicating more time to that, to the training aspect. I had made a commitment to coach youth league football at Lakes 12U, Lauderdale Lakes, and Coach Harriet called me one day and asked me what I was planning on doing that fall. Came in for an interview and let him know, that my business and growing that to feed my family was my main objective. But I loved coaching offensive line, and I would love to be a part of his staff. So joined St. Thomas. It was co-offensive line coach with Coach Nate Garner, who's now coaching in college. Joined them, and had a ton of talent to coach. Julian Armella, Talik Lockett, Brody Sobolinski, Ryan McCoe. I think we ended up putting Dawson Alters went to Virginia, and Blake Steen. We put 10 guys to Division I schools on the offensive line. So, Harrison Green, Will Roberts. A lot of talent in that room. I was blessed to coach those guys, and coach for Coach Harriet, right? Coming from playing from him was a unique dynamic. So, kind of how I got there. Long-winded answer to your simple question, Joe.
Yeah. I remember when like that whole season, that was a pretty legendary season, and our offensive line especially was dominant, and we did end up winning the state championship that year against Tampa Bay Tech. And talk me through what that was like at winning the state championship that year at Drive Pink Stadium.
Well, that year we had a lot of talent on offense, a lot of senior led talent. We had Zion and Hank in the backfield. You got Mason Taylor at tight end. You have a senior led offensive line. We had Cam out at receiver, our deep ball threat. I'm sure I'm missing some guys, so I apologize. But we had a ton of talent and a ton of old talent, right? A ton of senior leadership on offense. And they made it easy for us, man. You see what Mason Taylor's doing in the SEC right now. That kid is an absolute animal. So, you see Talik Lockett and what he's doing at the college level. These guys took it seriously, man. They were bought in. They were locked in. They were trying to play like it was a college. That's really, you've been around St. Thomas. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
That's how they operate. From the schedule to mentality to how you move around. That's how college football operates. and it allows those high level kids to just build on itself. There's not much you can do when Mason Taylor and Julian Armella and Talik Lockett are three guys on the same side running at you with Hank behind them. So it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. I mean, the season was not easy. I'm a very difficult coach to play for. I demand a lot, even of people outside my position. So there was some headbutting at times, but with me, it always comes from love, and I'm trying to educate these kids on what I know it's going to take for them at the next level. So it was a fun year, man. It's always fun to win championships. It wasn't easy from a communication standpoint and a personality standpoint, but we worked it out and we were able to get the job done.
All right, all right. So what are you doing nowadays? I see you're a coach at Western High School, and you also run 5-Star Studs. How long have you been running 5-Star Studs, and what's it like doing that? Because you do it every weekend, correct? Individual training.
Yep. Yeah. So 5-Star Studs actually started when I was in high school under Coach Luque. So this is a family brand. He allowed me to come into it. I got my degree in marketing from FIU, so I wanted to bring kind of a new business mentality to a brand he already had established. And we started training together, just trying to get content, training kids for free, trying to get videos and posting it out there. So it's something I've been doing for 4 years now, coming on 5. And it's just slowly been growing, man. My social media is just now starting to grow at a larger rate. I'm extremely thankful for that. But Coach Luque has meant a ton in my life. As a coach, as a mentor, as a man, allowing me to use his brand and to grow it and build it into something that the possibilities are endless. So extremely thankful to him for helping me start this process, coaching alongside me. And then now I'm really taking the helm and pushing this thing forward. So yeah, I do one-on-one trainings, I do group trainings, I do events, we sell shirts. So trying to encompass a lot of different parts of business. If you want to get into a business conversation, you want to have price points at different places, right? So our groups are $30. Our packages for our one-on-ones for committed people that know they want to do one-on-ones over and over again. We have discounted rates for those. And then we have $100 an hour if you want to purchase a single one-on-one session. So there's different opportunities for people to get involved. I want to be able to help as many people as I possibly can. And, anyone over the age of 7 or 8, as long as they're ready to work and can handle what our training program puts you through. I mean, I want to develop as many young, talented linemen in South Florida as possible. I think it was always frustrating for me to look at, schools like Miami and Florida State, especially Miami, a school I wanted to go to. I basically grew up in the Orange Bowl. Start recruiting these linemen from everywhere else but South Florida. I think it's extremely frustrating when you're in it and you feel like you're good enough. But now that I'm outside of that realm, like I've had coaches tell me they won't recruit South Florida linemen at all. And they're not really wrong for that, right? The perception of us is that we like to smoke too much and we're lazy. That's something we're going to have to diligently change, right? Perception's reality, like I said earlier. So in order for us to change that perception, we got to change our daily habits. And I think the skill positions down here in South Florida have had a consistency of being year round with their diligent work. And linemen kind of just take a few months off after the season and come back in May and spring and, roll out there out of shape and not ready to go. And, this game is changing, Joey. It's changing rapidly. I mean, high school football is going to quickly become a multi-million, if not billion-dollar industry once NIL gets passed. So I think a lot of these kids don't really understand how much is expected from them and how much hard work it actually takes to get where they say they want to go, right? And I tell my kids this all the time. All of you say you want a scholarship, but the numbers say that only 1% to 2% of you are going to get one. And in order to be a 1% guy, you got to do 1% stuff. And that looks like going out on your own and doing things that people might think are crazy. Like man, why are you going for a run at 8 o'clock at night? Like, why are you doing all these push-ups? Why are you working out on Sunday? Aren't you tired? Aren't you this? Aren't you that? And the answer is that the great ones don't even think about that. They don't look at those excuses. They just get after it. And I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to change the culture in South Florida and create a platform where young linemen can grow and develop and build that skill set and that mentality to start having this be a recruiting home for, for linemen. So I know that takes a long time. It will be a process, but it's one I'm committed to.
Okay. Last question before we let you go. I only got a couple minutes left. What motivates you?
What motivates me? Legacy, family. I want to be great at everything that I do, man. I want to impact my community from where I'm from. I've had opportunities to leave and to go elsewhere, and I really stubbornly believe, Joey, that we can make this happen in South Florida. That we can do something that's never been done before. And I'm gonna keep chasing that dream, bro. I'm gonna keep trying to speak and impact every lineman that I come across in South Florida, every coach that I come across in South Florida, every parent that I come across in South Florida, how important it is to have a process for success. My wife is a motivation. My wanting to start a young family is my motivation. Coach Harriet put this into us, getting back to your first question, Billy, this obsession with legacy. What are people gonna say about you when you're not here? How will you be remembered? And I want to be remembered as somebody that never flinched about helping someone in their community, that gave everything they had to changing the status quo into what I don't see as acceptable. I know that the talent exists. I've seen it. I've seen it in examples of guys like Marcus Tate and all the guys I mentioned earlier, from St. Thomas, and I still continue to see it. There's incredible kids on this Western offensive line that have so much talent, but they have to be put in a position to succeed. And I think that's going to come with growth on both sides, man. It's going to come with growth from coaches, and it's going to come with growth from the kids accepting that challenge. But yeah, man, that's what motivates me is I want to be legendary, bro. I want to be legendary, and where I'm from, change the game.
All right, well, Coach Bud, thank you so much for doing this, and have a great day.